everybody. Welcome to the Sheepdog Project. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Mike.
How are you?
Man, I'm so swell. Truly,
Swell. So swole or so swell?
Both.
Both.
Can it be both?
You can be both.
Okay, I am definitely both then. Swole and swell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we all know why you're swole.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about why you're swell.
Well, you and I mean, this is kind of a bummer, but we just finished a 3-day, 14-hour-a-day video shoot on making a preparation documentary, instructional video. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what they call these things. About how to survive an active shooter. And the day after we wrapped, the day we got done, is the day that some idiot walked into an amazing church in Central Texas and started shooting people. Mm-hmm. The same, we got done. We had scheduled our Las Vegas class 2 weeks before the Las Vegas shooting happened. So while I'm really confident that we're doing the right thing, that we're putting out the right curriculum, that we're giving people the tools that they need to survive, it is infuriating because it also demonstrates how badly we need it. And I don't want to, it sucks that we know that the need is there, but the need is there. So we're doing the right thing, and we will be vigilant. We will continue to be perseverant, but man, it sucks.
It does. It sucks knowing that you have the tools that can help in those situations, and that we're getting them out as quick as we can, but that sometimes that's not quick enough.
No, never is.
Yeah.
But with us, we have the one, the only, Michael Evers Kennedy, my father. Talking about having tools and getting them out early. He has made, with 30 some odd years in a law enforcement career, the most genius nuggets of wisdom handed off to me before I went on my first combat mission. The most influential person in my life, without a doubt. I mean, my mom also plays a part in that, but a barrel-chested freedom fighter, narcotics officer, president of the California Narcotics Officers Association, once or twice, has been doing what everything that we hold and everything that I value about a person, he has been demonstrating his entire life. And I have tried to model, but usually fail.
I think he would disagree with you on that. Usually.
Well, and also don't argue with him.
Yeah.
He's a hard one. He's a hard nut to crack.
We're always a work in progress, and sometimes progress takes a little while.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's longer for some than others. Obviously.
Tim's still young.
He's
got plenty of time to turn around. I mean, chronic underachiever. Plenty of time to turn his life around.
So, my dad is with us. Yeah, I think people, there's no stranger. Anybody that knows me knows the influence and impact that he has had. But that is just on me. He is dedicated, while he's an amazing father and an amazing husband, brother, all the things that I think as a human he was also a badass sheepdog. And he has been fighting something that a lot of people don't talk about. It's prevalent in a lot of the worlds that I've worked in South America, as you know, and have been to in Seventh Special Forces Group, our battle with the war on drugs. Now into Central America, all throughout the United States, in Africa and Europe, he's been on the tip of the spear for his entire career. And so that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about drugs.
All right.
It was funny because in addition to the military, law enforcement drug side of it, you as a doctor dealing with pharmaceuticals, me as a 17-year professional athlete, another thing that my dad influenced me on, I've never used performance-enhancing drugs. Being an athlete, going back as far as I can, my dad being an amazing athlete, it was one of those times where it has been offered more times than I can count, and in some ways that I didn't even realize, but to this day, I have never used anything that is considered performance-enhancing drug. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about this, but there's a lot to talk about.
I remember when you were 17 and went down to Huntington Beach to one of the gyms down there, and a guy who had been around and doing things a long time, and he said, "You cannot fight in the UFC without using steroids.
Yeah.
Period. You can't do it."
We don't have to veil conversations here. Huntington Beach, California, next to San Luis Obispo, California, was the second largest massive gym. You had there was Team Militich, and then there was the Huntington Beach Bad Boy with his crew in Southern California, and then there's the Central California crew. So Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz. These are the groups that I grew up with.
Well, and this was an age in the UFC too.
Oh, I'm also barbecuing, so I'm going to be in and out of this conversation. I have to go check on the chicken.
This was an age in the UFC where they were kind of following the lead of Pancrase and of Pride, and we all know how rampant it was over there. It wasn't just rampant; it was encouraged by the promotion because they wanted to make these freaks of nature comic book characters. And in the early days of the UFC, there were plenty of individuals competing. In UFC, if you go back to UFC, probably 1 through 30, it was really hard. Very few people were not chemically enhanced during that time. What year was this that Tim first got that advice?
Well, Tim was 17, 18, right in that. So you're talking, he was born in, 79. Yeah. So, you're late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. And he's, he was competing. He was very gifted, in jiu-jitsu. He was, I think he might have even gone and already won the competition in Vegas for jiu-jitsu. And so he was getting in, now he's starting to strike. He's sparring with Chuck, and he's learning from guys like Chuck Liddell. And
that sucked, by the way.
Getting hit by Chuck?
That
wasn't
hard.
Pleasant?
That's
not pleasant.
Look how amazing my chicken looks.
That does look amazing.
I realize it's a podcast and you guys can't see this, but
it's some pretty amazing looking chicken.
It is pretty fantastic. Be right back.
So what was your advice to him as a father on the advice he's getting, the contrary advice that he's getting from people in the business?
Well, it's I said there's consequence to that, and everybody needs to understand that if you're going to cut corners, if you're going to no matter what the drug is, if you're going to be using those things, there'll be consequences to your body, the consequences to your life, consequences to what you're able to say about yourself.
Right.
One of my grandsons just did a poster for a poster contest, and he talked about the Hall of Fame, and he's one of the things in his poster contest was the asterisk after the names.
People that did performance enhancing drugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a ton of them.
No matter what sport it is, you're going to see that asterisk, and that asterisk means a lot. It means that they didn't achieve it through hours and hours at the gym. They may have spent the hours in the gym,
right, but
they used a shortcut to get there. And you see a lot of the football players who have had substantial injuries, and a lot of it is and or brain, all these things that were roid related, and it's devastating, to a person's life.
Yeah.
For a short gain.
Yeah. It really is a pay now or pay later situation. And I've seen, we plan on talking about, use of illicit drugs, use of drugs, the party drugs and everything else. But I see in the emergency room, and this was it's particularly prevalent on the East Coast, is you see people come to the emergency room as a direct result of these performance enhancing drugs. And some in particular, these guys get so amped up on these performance enhancers that then they can't sleep. And there's a couple of drugs out there that they'll take as sleep aids, and they really will pretty much kill you. They'll put you all the way down. In fact, there was an article that was in a medical text a few years back about there were these 3 bodybuilders in New York, and they would take turns, one guy awake, 2 guys sleeping, because they knew. But it was literally the only way that these guys could sleep was by taking this drug. But they knew they were going down so deep that oftentimes they would stop breathing. So they would sleep in shifts. And it's like and that illustrates to me, it's when you're so caught up in taking one drug that you now need another drug to counteract what that drug is doing to you. Yeah. And these are guys that if you saw them walk down the street, most people would point at them and go, wow, look at how healthy that guy is. and their body's a cesspool. I mean, they're destroying their internal organs. They have huge muscles.
Yeah.
Their bones are probably breaking down. Their ligaments are shredding, most likely.
Yeah.
Their kidneys and liver are completely shutting down.
The backseat of an Uber car in San Francisco on
Sunday morning,
Sunday morning.
at 2:30
yeah.
is cleaner than their bloodstream.
That is a gross picture we just painted.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just I get it. You want to be. I don't get it. The whole entire point is to be the best version of yourself. And I struggled watching Vitor Belfort, make more money than me in the UFC, and I knew I was a better fighter. I was technically better. I could hit harder. I could grapple better. My wrestling was better, and he was an extra zero on his paycheck compared to me. And the one thing he did that I didn't was use enough steroids to kill a herd of wild horses moving through Montana in 1911.
I remember, and this was actually before you and I were acquainted, but not really friends at this point. And I remember you put something on social media specifically about Vitor and about the fact that he hasn't fought outside of Brazil at that time, I think it was 8 or 9 fights, which means all of his out of training and in training blood testing was done in Brazil, where he was considered a national icon. We're now in the USADA age of the UFC, and at that time, they've really turned on a dime, because at that time, they were really enabling it, in my opinion.
100%.
I mean, allowing stuff like that to go on.
They were enabling it. They were giving people. They were incentivizing.
They were rewarding it. Yeah.
They were incentivizing athletes to cheat. And when an athlete didn't, they would label them boring, or they'd pay them less, or they'd be on an undercard. That was a frustrating era to be in, especially when you watch, the night and day picture of Vitor Belfort's body before and after USADA, which is the U.S. Anti-Doping Administration. It's when they supposedly started testing us UFC fighters for drugs. At 38 years old, I looked the same as I did when I was 25. And I looked nearly the same as I did when I was 18. My balls had just dropped a few years before that, so you could tell that I had a little more hair on the back of my head, fewer gray hairs on the side of my head, and I had the boyish good looks, where now I have the kind of the Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, good looks. But I looked at like the same dude, and people still to this day are like, "Hey, you're still obviously on steroids." And it's like, well, unless I've been on steroids since I was 17, with over 100 in competition blood tests and countless, I don't even know how many out of competition blood tests that I have been able to get away. I'm obviously a better doper than I don't know who's a really famous guy that never got caught.
Did Overeem ever get caught?
Overeem definitely got caught.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Okay. Nobody comes to mind. So I guess
pretty much everybody gets caught.
I didn't freaking cheat. In other
Well,
words.
you'd have to be so good not only at hiding it from USADA, but
That was hot.
But you're. I have a lot of friends that are athletes. You're one of the few that I know that has not approached me about getting performance enhancing drugs.
Well, I mean,
through
with
me.
that said, what are you doing?
I've also traveled the world with you, and I've seen your luggage rifled through by security. I've seen your luggage open in your room. There's no way that you can hide it from me. At 51 years old, you know what pharmaceutical substances I require, and that I do have to stick a needle through my flesh every
You're also
once
one
in
of
a
my
while.
best friends, and
Yeah.
I would talk to you about it.
And I would know it. And I'm not just saying that. But at the same time, the moment that I found out you were doing something like that, you'd get a stern counseling, or we would cease to be best friends.
Oh.
So
I don't want bitch tits. I mean, that's a big contributing factor.
that's, you know what, anybody who wants to do
What's that called?
steroids,
Gynecomastia. Ooh, that sounds
anybody who
nasty.
wants to do steroids, look at that scene in The Wrestler when the guy is selling him all of his drugs, and it's like Here's the this. Now you got to take that so you don't get that. You got to take
Here's
this
an
so that
estrogen
doesn't get
blocker.
hot. Yeah, here's your estrogen blocker. Now you get, here's insulin to make sure that you're in the right anabolic state as opposed to a catabolic. Who wants to go through that?
I don't.
You know.
It also goes against everything. Okay, so we say we're sheepdogs. We say that we're moral, upstanding men and women of integrity. I have to look, as my dad looked at me, I'm going to have to look at my kids who are athletes and tell them, and I'm not going to lie to them, what they should do when they're tempted to use. The same reason I have teenage kids now, and that, it's in some circles, I guess it's okay to smoke weed. I, to this day, have never smoked weed, nor will I. Maybe when my kids are, PhDs and I am now 88 years old, my dad is dead, so he won't have to kill me. My mom is dead, so she won't have to kill me.
And she's capable.
Yeah, she is.
And it's legal.
Yeah.
By then it'll be legal.
So maybe even then I would have to think about it. So there is just not a reason that I can think of to put my body and to put my integrity into question. And that's what I think it would do. Besides you being a doctor, you as an 18 Delta, you have seen probably more than anyone else on the planet as a physician and as a special forces medic, the abuse of pharmaceutical, performance enhancing, because you're also, the fight doc, so you've seen the athletes, you have seen the special forces operators. And I was on the fence about this. I think the 3 times that I was tempted the most, one was in the UFC as an athlete, both through my entire career, young and old. When I was old, it was to not feel old, and when I was young, to beat and to get bigger, faster, and stronger. And then as an operator, watching guys on my teams in deployments when we were going 8, 9, 10 targets in a night. How many doors have you kicked in your life, Dad?
25 years doors, sometimes, two a week.
Yeah.
So
a lot of doors.
That's a lot of doors.
Yeah.
We were doing 7, 8, 9 houses in a night. And you'd leave at 9, 10 p.m. and you'd get back at 6 or 7 a.m. And, few gunfights, dragging some dead bodies, climbing up the side of a building. And even as a 25-year-old kid, I hurt and I looked at 35-year-olds that were using steroids just so they could do their job.
And my experience in the guy, and again, most of my time was in recce, not in DA. And in recce, it holds you back because it actually increases your metabolic demand to the point, and you've seen those guys too. They're almost incapable of holding still in a high site. So in recce, it was a detractor. And we had one guy that, for that, among other things, we kicked him out and his tab was revoked. I know of...
what about 18 Deltas, though, that got hooked on their own...
there's
phonics.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. There's one way back in the day when we were carrying
what were those pens?
Nubane. I saw guys get hooked on Nubane, which
what were the
Nubane
lollipops?
The fentanyl lollipops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, guys seem to like those.
I never tried one. I was scared to death.
No, I won't.
Even if I got blown up or shot, I'd still look at that thing. When you're outside the PX on at like 1:55, they're about to stop selling liquor at 2:00, and the Dependa monsters. So those are girls that prey upon soldiers to try to get a baby up in them, so then they can have TRICARE insurance and income for the rest of their life. So what do they call them?
Dependopotamus.
Dependopotamus, yes. The Dependopotamus were preying upon these innocent...
We're going to get letters.
young, innocent soldiers. And I would go cruising inside of there. And even looking at that Dependopotamus, I would look at my fentanyl lollipop a little more leerily.
Really?
Yeah, that's how scary. And I looked at those Dependopotamuses with pure disdain and fear because they were little trickery tricksters.
Yeah.
So I never got the hooked on lollipop.
And fentanyl now, that's the rage. That's, you look at the opium crisis throughout the U.S. and fentanyl's grabbing the bus right now, and it's...
which is illegal. If you're using fentanyl, you should not be driving a bus.
No.
You should not be
Bad
operating.
idea. Bad
you should
idea.
not be operating any vehicle.
As you know, your brother
Who's a badass?
Sheriff in California. He just did a big fentanyl case. Just all this straight powder fentanyl coming in, and he did 20,000 doses off this person that had just finished law school. And
Where are they getting it?
My brother did not use fentanyl. That would kill him in that amount. By the way,
Right.
I'm not a doctor, but if he took 20,000,
That's a lot.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
He did as a sheriff executed the law and put a criminal in jail.
yeah.
So
And
where was that coming from?
I'm pretty sure that one was coming. It went from, I think, China to Denmark to into Central California.
China, I knew it. I'm in North Korea.
So
They're in cahoots.
but that's and she was selling it like crazy, and it was just, and the impact of fentanyl, the overdoses. I mean, what are the emergency rooms seeing now? I mean,
Yeah,
Tim was talking about the lollipop, but now people
like fentanyl because it's quick acting,
absolutely,
and it's only and it's dosed in micrograms,
right.
not milligrams. So it's you don't need very much at all.
I don't know what either of those things mean.
Yeah, it's so little.
It's back to the little bitty
amounts.
tiny pinheads.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
little
your
tiny
brain.
bits, Yeah.
Okay.
Like your brain.
Yeah, like my brain.
Yeah.
What was your experience? We were talking a lot about performance enhancers. What was your experience in law enforcement? With my experience has been militarily and medically, especially as a fight doctor, that I honestly think that steroids are. We talk about marijuana as a gateway drug, which I know people that have smoked pot most of their adult lives, and they've never had a desire to go on to anything else. It's like wine to them.
But they can't live without it.
Yeah, I think some of them. Some
Which
of
is
them
an
can.
addiction to
Yeah.
me.
But I honestly think steroids are a bigger gateway drug in a lot of ways. Did you have a lot of experience with guys who, like you'd get a warrant on a guy, and the story would, and you'd look at old mugshot pictures, and it's like he used to be this big jack dude on steroids, and now he's a meth head or whatever it might be?
I think, the steroids was almost set, to me, in the illegal drug community, almost separated. It was in a way of its own. There was a fair amount of meth, in there also, because they wanted the stimulated part of it. But it was almost a little bifurcated in that you had the steroid community and the heavy steroid community.
Doctor, what does bifurcated mean?
It means two of.
Okay.
It's like separate, split.
So I'm doing this because the audience.
You are not giving our audience enough credit.
Okay. It's
We have
because-
a very smart.
It's because I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to say that it was because I want to make sure everyone in our audience understood what bifurcated mean, and that's why I was asking. But now you call
Don't
me out
forget,
on
your
it.
dad's not that smart either. To use that word, I wrote it down here on this pad, so I had it. But so it's, you had that community with the steroids, and to me, there's the whole dark side of the illicit community, whether it be weed, whether it be coke, whether it be meth, whether it be heroin, and it and now the pharmaceuticals, which have kind of precluded and made it very accessible for our youth to start with pharmaceuticals and work their way right into heroin, right into fentanyl, and that's where we're seeing the crisis. Is the fentanyl is so powerful.
Yeah.
And as to me, when I looked at different drugs through my career, I lived through the cocaine, days when it went from cocaine to crack cocaine to, the Richard Pryors of the world, everybody else blowing themselves up and those things. And then same with the methamphetamine, where they're, doing meth, and now it's ice, now they're smoking it. And heroin is making its resurgence. But, heroin was marginally medicinal in that it was, 4 to 6 hours. Boom, it's off, you're back on. You're sick, you're well, you're sick, you're well. And it was it had a very cyclical usage. Where methamphetamine, they'd be on the pipe and then put the pipe down, they're back on the pipe, and so until they crash 3 days later. So, the illegal community, I think, no matter what it is, has its own dark side. And I think the dark side's there for a reason, because you're going to a dark side that's going to dampen your integrity, dampen your body, dampen, no matter how you put it, it's there, and it's going to have a dark side on you and everything that you stand for.
What's been your experience as far as the stuff that's getting the prescription drug? Because that's kind of the rage now. Is people aren't going out and scoring heroin, they're doing more prescription drugs. But in your experience, are they mostly doctor shopping to get it, or are they getting it coming up from Mexico?
I've been retired 10 years. I'm still conference coordinator for the California Narcotic Officers Association. Our conference is next week. Over 2,000 people attending. So I still, but the current trends, I'm not as much there. But I can tell you, 20 years ago, I was working a doctor writing scripts, and he was writing OxyContin. He was writing.
Is that illegal?
Huh?
Is that illegal?
He was convicted. He was president.
So I'm just asking for a friend. But if I were to ask Dr. Mike Simpson here to give me a fentanyl lollipop prescription, let's just say 25 quantity per month, would that be okay? Asking for a friend.
It would not be okay.
Okay, good to know.
So that doctor specifically, besides everything else, he killed 2 patients, one of which he had in the hospital for 10 days, detoxed him. The day he got out, he wrote him 100 Percodan, 100 OxyContin, and he died.
Is that covered in the Hippocratic Oath?
Yeah, doing no harm.
Yeah.
That's right up there.
Yeah.
But if you're going to split hairs on the Hippocratic Oath, it also says you won't perform abortions.
No, I'm not splitting hairs.
It literally,
I was being sarcastic.
It literally says that in the
on
Hippocratic
both of those things.
Yeah.
So
That's if you consider a fetus life, which I do.
So there's, as the kids are getting it out of their parents' cabinets.
Yeah.
They're trying. There's a lot of doctor shopping around, going around.
And I had to learn early. The military, I've never, you give me stitches, I won't let you give me a local. I come home from a fight, and I have a busted orbital socket or a jacked up hand or a surgery from the knee, and you give me a prescription of 20 whatever painkillers, or I won't take them. So I had bags of 20, 30, 40, 50 painkillers sitting up there, and it took somebody stealing from me to be like, oh my God, what do I do with these then?
Yeah.
And walking back into a doctor's office and be like, I need you to take these so that people don't take them from me, because I'm never going to use them. And it's crazy. So they steal it. They buy it on the black market. They get it from Central America. There's a lot of fake, dangerous versions online.
Oh, yeah.
I know that from my Viagra Cialis days, where I'm just trying to get a blue diamond, and it comes in a purple triangle.
You might end.
And I know my shapes, and those two things are not the same.
You don't want to end up like Anderson or Johnny Bones there, getting some contaminated some boner pills.
I'm joking. Pretty much anytime I'm opening my mouth right now, you guys should understand that I'm being a sarcastic prick.
You know what we're seeing a lot of with the prescription abuse now, really popular. Xanax is huge, and they're getting it. If you've got Xanax, Austin, Texas, huge. If you have the money,
you sound like Trump right there. By the
huge.
Austin, Texas, Xanax, huge.
Huge. It's huge. So the patients are telling me about how easy it is to get. Basically, all you need is the money. And then they're telling me about the amounts that they're taking. The thing about Xanax, they're basically doing it. It's like getting up in the morning and drinking 3 glasses of scotch. So they're basically going to work drunk, but you can't smell any alcohol. And they're getting completely hooked on it. The thing about Xanax, it lowers your seizure threshold so much so quickly that then eventually when you run out and your guy who you get it from is not in town, and you come to my emergency room and you want Xanax, and I go, well, there's no record of you having a Xanax prescription, so I'm not writing you for Xanax, then you probably had a seizure. Or you do like what one of my patients did. He decided, I normally take my Xanax every night at this time, but tonight I'm going to go play softball, so I'm going to wait until I'm done playing softball to do it. So he's going up for a fly ball in center field and has a seizure. So
you can't play baseball very well, in my opinion. And I'm not a doctor.
On Xanax.
Or
while seizing.
Yeah.
Either one of those things.
I think.
Yeah. That and clonazepam are become these really popular. Had a patient come in, wanting it. I'm like, no, you're not getting it. His wife even called, said, don't give it to him. Like he works as a contractor. He's fallen off of roofs at work.
Awkward.
Yeah. That's a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
And of course, his boss sends him and says, I think you're drunk, so I'm going to take you somewhere to get it. I'm going to get one of those portable blood alcohol breathalyzers, and it's negative. You see, I'm not drunk.
Yeah. Police work, we called that a clue.
yeah.
But I had a knee replacement 2.5 years ago, and actually, Tim, the surgeon that replaced my knee when Tim blew his ACL out when he was 17, the same surgeon did mine, and so he'd known the family for a long time and everything else. And I told him, I said, I worked narcotics for 25 years. I was a cop for 33. I said, I know this is painful, but if you make me a junkie, I'll kill you, and Tim will kill you. I said, because it scared the crap out of me, because I knew I was going to be taking some heavy duty pain medication.
I totally would have killed him too, by the way.
Yeah, it scared me. And I mean, I'm a grown up, I'm a big boy, but just the danger of any of those heavy
They really are
medications.
dangerous though. The prescription drugs, everybody, gateway this, gateway that. The avenue from an overdose to the first time you used is a really massive open door that a lot of people walk through, and they're not even aware of it. And the point of addiction, like that the self-awareness, in the kind of the Sheepdog 4 A's, the first thing is that first A is awareness. It's awareness of yourself, awareness of your environment, awareness in like a profiling, situational awareness sense. But the first thing is about yourself. And it is really hard for everyone, for any human, to recognize when they've had a problem. I mean, in Alcohol Anonymous, it's like, what isn't the first thing like?
First step?
The first step is, I have a problem.
Yeah.
And that is the hardest step. Yeah. And that's with alcohol, which is a pretty clear, I think, comparatively to marijuana or Xanax or performance enhancing drugs or any of the other, and I do think that a lot of different things are gateways. It's really hard for people to recognize or understand that they are on a path that could potentially leave them permanently damaged, or dead, or without a paddle going over a waterfall.
Yeah. You have to realize, people get, there's a thing where the threat of harm, if there's a threat of harm, you're less likely to do it. And the more the threat of harm is reduced, the more people are likely to commit that act. So you reduce the threat of harm, whether it be marijuana. In turn, there's more people using marijuana. Yeah. You reduce the threat of harm because the doctor is prescribing my opiates. Now, all of a sudden, the threat of harm is down because they're coming from the doctor. So you're
the perceived threat of harm.
Perceived threat, yeah. Absolutely. So you're now feeling safer. So you're feeling safer to use that. I mean, that it is a teeter-totter. It's a pretty standard equation of threat of harm and usage and danger. So and with Sheepdog, if you assess a problem that there's danger out there, you're going to look at it differently than just walking in eyes wide open or eyes wide shut, or however you do it. It's that you have to be aware and understand, especially now with the prescription drugs and everything else, that don't think that it should be okay.
Can't mess.
The suburban soccer mom who would never in a million years dream about scoring heroin or smoking crack. This is I went in about, hey, when I'm out gardening, my back hurts. And the doctor gave me OxyContin or whatever,
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time. The one time I got prescribed. So I had a back injury in 1989, and I went to the doctor and I got prescribed Percodan, and there were directions on the label. I was a ranger. I followed the directions on the label, and I took it every X amount of hours on the dot. I watched my watch and I took it when I was supposed to, and then I ran out, and I went through withdrawals. And I didn't sleep for like 2 nights because I one of the doses was right before I went to bed. That helped me sleep. And I remember thinking, wow, if I had one of those right now, I would be able to sleep. That's probably the best reason why I should never take one again, because of the way I feel right now. And since then, I think outside of a root canal or something like that, I've taken something. And I always, typically I say, if you're going to give me anything at all, write me for like 2, maybe 3 tramadol, because I know the side effect profile is low. But what most people don't realize is none of these medications are meant to be chronic. Because if you have chronic pain, we either need to do physical therapy or a TENS unit or a surgery or some type of rehab.
Right next to you. There's a TENS unit right there.
Yeah, there's a TENS unit right there.
With a game ready.
Yeah. You do something. You do some type of intense physical therapy. You cure that pain. They're not... And I get flack on this all the time. No, some people need it to live.
No, they don't.
We know that after 6 weeks of being on prescription opiates, your body starts to degrade. And the addiction pathways are so firmly established. I got a lot of flack, for saying on social media something that's absolutely true, but nobody wants to believe it. We have like 54,000 opiate overdose deaths per year.
That seems like a lot to me.
Maybe it's 5,400. I have to look it up again. It's a lot.
Either one of those numbers is really high.
Yeah, it's a lot. But do you know how many opiate withdrawal deaths we have every year? 0. Okay, you can now Xanax withdrawal can absolutely kill you. Klonopin withdrawal can absolutely kill you. Ativan, Valium withdrawal from all those can absolutely kill you. No one has ever died from opiate withdrawal, and people are going to wail and gnash teeth when I say that. The one person that really took me to task for it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about how her brother died from opiate withdrawal, and I said, well, what killed? What did it say on the autopsy? And she said, well, he hung himself. Okay. That's a suicide. He did not physically die from opiate withdrawal. We say this all the time. The good news about opiate withdrawal is you're not going to die. The bad news is you're going to feel like you want to.
Yeah.
Because it is extremely painful. Are you looking at the number?
No. Before I went into the military, before I went to the police academy, the first thing I did at a young, spry age of 18 years old went to the Cuesta College EMT course, so that I could be a firefighter EMT at the Atascadero Fire Department, and I remember Narcan. That stuff scared the living bejesus out of me. I would see a dead person. I mean, this person is dead. They're covered in usually their own piss, poop, and vomit. And then I would take this needle.
Blue.
Yeah, and I would inject it into them. And they would turn into zombies. They would wake up, their eyes would open, they'd freak out, and then they'd attack one of us pretty promptly. It was the closest I've ever been to really fighting a zombie, and I hope it's not the last time. I still have my dream, my inner aspiration, my hope, my fantasy that
you get to fight real zombies.
Real zombies. Yeah. I'm fine with socialists, communists, or fascists, but I would prefer zombies.
Yeah. Remind me, we won't talk about this during the podcast, but I'll tell you afterwards. I want to write a book. You remember the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? Mm-hmm. So I want to write a book, Men Love Zombies, Women Love Vampires, and I'll tell you about that at another time. Okay.
Wow, that's another podcast in itself.
Sounds deep. So as we're doing this podcast right now, Mike and I are now 20, 30 minutes away from heading to what will be my third workout of the day.
Yeah. My second. I did cardio this morning.
Nice. To go grapple, and my teenage daughter is going to go with us. The point of this that I'm dropping, I'm not bragging, I'm saying that we practice what we preach. My elation from today was bouncing off the walls after I was able to go pick up some suppressors and some guns from my dealer.
Dealer.
See what I did there? Dealers are talking about drugs.
There's all kinds of addiction.
Yeah. So I'm an addict. I understand that I like adrenaline. I like endorphins. I like dopamine. I like the things that my body would naturally produce after I do things. I like how I feel after I have sex and I go to sleep. I like how I feel after I work out so hard that I feel like my chest is going to explode. I'm at the edge of vomiting. My heart has pounded its way out of my chest. My hands are bleeding. and Shane Steiner is next to me, dejected and broken because I just crushed him in a workout. I'm kidding. Shane almost hangs with me. I mean, those are addictions, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm addicted to freedom.
I like freedom.
I'm kind of addicted to family, you know. So
That's a great addiction.
That is also a good addiction.
Yeah, it's how good can that be?
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to be the best version of myself and the happiest version of myself, the most fulfilled, the most satiated. And there are normal, natural, healthy ways to do it. You just have to, imagine this, do the work, the hard work to get there.
You know, there is such a thing. There's a psychological profile for an addictive personality.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it all the time, and I'm sure you saw it in police work, both in the people you're running down and probably in some people wearing the badge too, that they were totally addicted to whatever it was, and had they picked a different poison at any time, that could have radically changed their life. And you see a lot of people that they kick that bad addiction, you know, whether it's a needle or a bottle or whatever it might be, and they totally flip around and they become completely addicted to whatever it might be, you know, triathlons or, you know, going to the gym and lifting. And some people are just that way. And there's a lot, and it is genetic. There's a lot of addiction in my family. There's generations of alcoholism in my family. And I don't even, Tim knows, I don't keep beer in my fridge. There's a wine rack in my kitchen that gets used sparingly. So, but I am aware of that fact that there's probably a very short loop to addiction if I chose to go there, and I choose not to. So,
you choose. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Every one of these things is a choice, and you know we say in kind of like the sheepdog or what I consider just to be the warrior approach to life is, you know, when you have to fight for your life, when you're sitting at a church in Central Texas and some asshole walks in, it's not going to be what you do then and there that determines your success or failure, whether you save everybody behind you or you don't, whether you pull out the gun, put the gun on the ground, and the congregation is saved, or some of them are, or you don't. You know, it's accumulation of thousands of little decisions, and this is one of them. Mm-hmm. When that dude in the fanny pack walks up to you in Gold's Gym and says, "Hey man, I can get you bigger faster, I can get that body fat off of you," or "I'm about to do a movie," and the producer and stuntman send me an email and be like, "Hey man, I got somebody in town that you can take this and it will help you get ready for the movie." And I walk into my strength and conditioning coach and I say, "Hey man, the producer and stuntman are telling me to take this," and like, "Hey, that's a freaking steroid."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even know. Okay, cool. Don't have to worry. We're not going to take it. We can do this the right way, which I thought we were.
Was it something with elk horn in it?
I don't even remember. But a testament to the people that I surround myself. You know, if I walked up to you and I said, "Hey, what is this?" Or if I walked to Juan on it, my strength and conditioning coach, or to John Wolf, or to Shane Steiner, or to any of my friends, they're going to slap me in the face and be like, not a chance, bro. We're not doing this. Mm-hmm. So, you know, not only are you are who you surround yourself with, but it's a million little decisions that are going to lead you down failure, success, addiction, death, or be a badass version of yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, when you said earlier, pick your poison. You know, dedication and your addiction to pureness is a poison. Yeah, that's good. You know, working too hard. You know, there's all of these things that, you know, the addictions. But when you really talk about picking your poison, there's a lot of truth to that. Mm-hmm. If you're going to try to do it chemically, no matter what it is, that's your slope. That you're just opening to that darkness that you don't know where the end is going to be.
Yeah.
And becoming, instead of the best that you could be, and, you know, stronger, faster, harder to kill, all of a sudden you're at a place where you want to kill yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you're going to be that person that's going to end up there.
Yeah. Being addicted to your own endorphins, you can always find some place to do body weight exercises and lunges and push-ups and, you know, prison workout, whatever it is. But being addicted to something that you either have to go to a hospital and get or go to an alley somewhere and get, sooner or later something's going to impede that. You know, whether it's the doctor who was being the candy man lost his license, or the guy behind the dumpster in the alley on the bicycle in Houston, Texas, got arrested and he's not on the street this week. And then that's going to dry up. And then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to go to another part of town that's even more dangerous. You're going to have to try to knock over a pharmacy in the middle of the night. You know, you're going to have to, drive down to Juarez and try to score. What are you going to do then?
So we're on the road and with a bunch of people that were dependent on stuff. And we had conversations where I would say, man, this isn't a healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, so I'm a true libertarian. You know, my dad and I argue about this a little bit. I'm 100% against the use of marijuana. Do I think that somebody should have the choice to do it? I kind of do, because that's, I think, what a libertarian does. And so I'm not throwing stones at the guys that we were working with, but they almost had to smoke weed every single day. And they're trying to smuggle it through, we're traveling through 10, 15 different countries, and they're trying to smuggle it in. And they're like, who are you to throw stones from your glass house when I see you get up at 5 a.m. and go and work out so you can feel the way that I do after I smoke? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm not going to go to jail. And while there is a very small point to what they're making.
Nobody ever ended up in a Turkish prison for push-ups.
No. But mine, maybe they are a better version of themselves when they're smoking, and maybe I'm a better version of myself when I'm doing push-ups. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't understand that argument. And while I realize that they have the freedom to do whatever they want, I'm not going to tell them to do what they are doing if it doesn't affect my freedoms. But, man, that doesn't make any sense. I like doing push-ups. Not because I feel better afterwards, which I do. Not because my breasts look fantastic, which they are. Not because it helps me not have, what is it when you have boobs but you're a dude?
Gynecomastia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
Does doing push-ups help not have those?
Yes. Well, the thing is once you have pecs of a certain size, if you don't do it, then yes, you're gonna have man boobs. So,
well, I don't have.
Like if you had never done a push-up your entire life and stayed lean, like you don't see like marathon runners.
Yeah.
Don't do a lot of push-ups.
But they are skinny fat, and they have like man boobs on their stomach.
Yeah, the pro bicyclists especially, they have that like burrito roll. It's like a Euro wrap.
So I was with Lance Armstrong. I work out with Lance Armstrong a couple of days a week.
Yeah.
And that guy will run me into the ground. He will bicycle me into the ground. He will probably do anything over 2 hours long me into the ground. And he has the most disarming shape because he has that. Like he has that few extra percentage of body fat that he's like a camel. Does that work, doctor?
They're mobilizing that when they're on those, when they're doing Le Mans or whatever it is. They're mobilizing those fluids. They're mobilizing fat stores.
Lance, I'm on to you. If you're listening to this, I'm gonna cut that off you so you can't beat me anymore.
Yeah, they need that. That's why a lot of people see that and they think that that's the way those bike shirts just fit. No, a lot of them, the successful ones actually have that. They're skinny guys with that little roll.
There's multiple reasons why I'm never going to be a professional bicyclist.
So those aren't just water bottles around in their
Those
shirt.
aren't just water bottles.
Really?
Yeah, there is a weird pocket back there,
Yeah.
but that's you see when they're on the stand and you take a look, you can see they got a little, they got some fat there, but they need it.
Yeah.
They need it. They got to draw on that. So.
He had a rough time with performance enhancing drugs. Lance.
Yeah, sure he did.
In a sport where everybody uses it, I'm going to defend him because I see him here. Where if you ride the Tour de France, you use steroids. There's nobody that was in the top 10 that ever did it clean. That sucks.
Well, that's when they stripped him. What they had to go 12 guys down. in the samples before they found somebody that was clean or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's not. He was the famous one. He was the one everybody was wearing the bracelet, but it wasn't the only one. Yeah.
Pretty dumb. So I don't care if you're doing steroids, and there's lots of them. Man, if you've been in special forces for 40 years, 20 years, you've been a cop for 25 years, 30 years, you are a stay-at-home dad, and you have testosterone of like 11, and you go in and a doctor's like, hey bro, the reason why you don't want to have sex, you don't want to exercise, the reason that you're 25-30% body fat is you have testosterone that I can't even measure, it's so low. I'm not throwing stones at that guy to go into to get medical testosterone. I'm throwing stones at the guy that has veins, vascularity that makes every junkie on the planet jealous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is at like 4 or 5% body fat and shaving his back and having his buddy pop the pimples.
Mm-hmm.
That has a Cro-Magnon forehead. Dude, you are killing yourself. And you're not, listen firefighters, listen cops, you're not being better versions of yourself. You are not going to be able to do your job, and now even worse, you have become a hypocrite and you are putting your integrity and moral in question. So don't go pull over people and start citing them for possession of marijuana when you're injecting your ass with with anything.
Yeah.
I'm rolling right now because we have jiu-jitsu now in a few minutes. Oh my god.
So I did look it up. So I'm looking at the 2014 or 2015 number. It was over 47,000 OD deaths.
That's insane.
So I think somewhere along the line I saw the 2016 numbers were 54,000 because I know it's on the rise.
Yeah.
Because it used to be year by year it's gone up. You know, it used to be most of those were heroin, and now it's getting more and more and more and more that the prescription drugs are edging those out.
And fentanyl's
And
just.
fentanyl is just
Can we do story time with Mike Kennedy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's have a story.
Dad.
Yes.
I remember this time when my mother and I had to deliver Madonna pies to a secret warehouse where you had a pallet full of cocaine. Not a kilo of cocaine. You had a pallet of cocaine. I mean, I was just a young whippersnapper. I didn't even understand the value of the hizzo for the nizzo, as the cool kids call it these days. How did you get a pallet of cocaine?
Well, those were, because I had worked.
He stole a plane! He stole a plane of cocaine!
No,
Go on.
we actually paid for the plane to go down there and pick it up from Pablo. But actually, Pablo paid us to fly down there and pick it up. So we were able to.
Whose dad is the coolest?
Yeah.
I win.
And there was a cool shot that we were at Gitmo, and we had just gotten back.
This was before Gitmo was cool.
Yeah. So, and we had a C-130, and we had just loaded it with a ton of cocaine. So we have a ton of cocaine in this C-130.
A literal
ton of cocaine.
Not a metaphorical ton of cocaine.
Yeah.
An actual.
And there was
Do you realize how much a ton of cocaine is?
It's like a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more than Shane Steiner did in his tour.
That's a lot.
But so you know when you're at the airport and they have that little forklift that says "Follow me," it kept following the plane, and it was so funny to watch this plane with a ton of cocaine saying "Follow me." Of course, everybody wanted to follow that plane. But I had worked. One of the times I was down there, and I worked for a county agency, but my big thing is working with people, and just like you in SF, you work with the community, you work with the people in those regions, you work with all the different branches, and it's partnership. It's working together, just like being a sheepdog is. You work together to be better of yourself. So I was able to start working with people in different agencies, and I'm in, like I say, in Cuba. And a couple feds come up and they say, "So who you with?" And I said, "Well, that's San Luis Obispo County." "What the fuck are you doing here?" And so it was a good run. I was able to do that. I worked the big methamphetamine labs when I mean, actually had a camera in a methamphetamine lab where they kicked or cooked 50 pounds out of that, and they were doing it every week. So, it's, I had some good things, did some good, a lot of great cases that were a lot of fun.
I'm just going to summarize this. The leader of the largest drug cartel paid you to steal a ton of his cocaine, which you did, and you stole it and smuggled it into the United States, which then you had your son bring you apple pie.
Well, yeah, we were hungry and we had to guard it, and we didn't steal it. He paid us to deliver it, which we did. He just didn't know
That you're delivering.
He didn't know what your affiliation was.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end,
You realize that
so to speak, the end delivery guy was going to get hooked and booked. So it.
So you fulfilled the obligation.
I did
completely.
We did exactly what they asked
Yeah.
us to do.
Yeah. That person paid. That person got their cocaine.
Right.
It just stopped right after.
Right. And the bad part is that they didn't give us after the guy got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, you did 4 loads and none of the loads made it all the way through because we didn't lose a drop. We lost nothing. And
Is it in powder though?
Yeah. But I figuratively drop. Okay.
It's
Sorry.
metaphorical. Tim.
Sorry.
It's metaphorical.
So anyhow, they said, we're gonna not
Ken
pay you
Shamrock's
the.
not the world's most dangerous man. Go ahead, sorry.
So it was, so it was good times. It was good times.
A ton of cocaine, a stolen plane a chartered plane. God, this is awesome.
That's so cool.
And I don't remember. The memory is a tricky thing. I was having a conversation with my daughter the other day, and she remembers something when she was 8, vastly different than I remember, but it's the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
War is a bitch, and I have had people on either side of the same door as me. So like one guy's on one left side, I'm on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
We throw a grenade through that, and from the time that grenade goes off, the next 20 minutes, if you had us write down what happened, would not even be believable as being anywhere near in the vicinity of the same story.
Do you want me to talk about the amygdala and the hippocampus? Or?
I don't. I'm painting this picture so that when I tell the story, and my dad then corrects me on what he remembers it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm right and he's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Just we remember things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the earliest memories I have of somebody doing something sheepdog-ish, and I don't remember how old I was, but I remember that we were in Southern California. We were at a mall at night. My brother and sister were with me, and my mom and my dad were in the front seat, and we heard somebody scream, like a blood-curdling scream of, oh my God, I'm dying type thing. Like a scream that
Mm-hmm.
And my dad turns to my mom. This is pre-cell phone days, and it was, and to the kids, and it was like, you guys wait here, I'm going to go straighten this out. And he gets out of the car, and I don't remember if it was like domestic violence thing, or like, I think it was like a boyfriend with a girlfriend. But I remember being scared shitless. Like I was going to die, and that guy just killed this woman, and that my dad then went and brought her back from death and then put the bad guy in jail. Like that's the memory that I have, and it was the first example of, or the earliest memory that formed what we as defenders, sheepdogs, just a good human, what we're supposed to do. Do you remember that?
Well, I remember there's that one and another one, but yeah, and there also, if you
Well, I have
remember,
100 of them. I remember
Yeah.
100 of those.
Well,
That's the first one I remember.
yeah. Well, we used to go. I'd go to federal court, and so we'd go downtown LA because that's where federal court was.
Downtown LA sucks.
So downtown LA, it's it's people say Skid Row, it's real. So
And not like underpants.
yeah, and so the kids, we'd talk about life choices. Life choices can bring you here. There could be other issues. There could be mental health issues. There could be a lot of issues. But a lot of life choices will bring you right here. So watch your life choices. And, and it doesn't, and I'd be down there and, one of these guys go, "Hey, Mike," because I'd park my car there and I'd eat. I wasn't too intimidated by things, and they would say, "I'll watch your car for you." Okay, so I'd be driving one time, and my daughter goes, "Dad, you are way out of control. These people know you, and we live 200 miles away." So it's, but you can still have compassion for people, and but there is a lot of life choices in that. But one of the other ones that was, I don't know if you remember the one in Utah. We were coming back from Colorado. We had a family reunion, and my mom, Christmas night, had a massive heart attack. And so my sister woke me up in the morning, and I went in, gave her CPR. 0 for 1. She died. She was pretty much dead then. She died. So we had to arrange a funeral because we had a family reunion in Steamboat Springs. I'm driving back from, because we had driven there. So I have the 3 kids in the car. We're in Utah at a hotel, and get everybody up to the room. I ran down to grab my gun, and because we got the kids in, and all of a sudden, blood-curdling scream, a couple doors down. So I run down there, what's going on? And this lady hands me her baby. My baby. The baby's drenched, wet, not breathing. And I'm thinking, oh, I just went 0 for 1 3 days ago. So bright spot was, my wife was there, we're helping this, and we got an airway back, baby went to the hospital, everybody's fine, and so, you just have to be prepared. You have to be aware of your surroundings, capable, but be ready to react because you don't know where it's going to be. You don't know when it's going to be. You just have to be ready.
This is where I grew up. I got these little nuggets of wisdom. Like most of the stuff that I say, where either people are like, "Oh, you're such a conceited prick to say this." I'm just regurgitating the things that my dad has said, but I say it so I can sound cool, or they say that it was inspirational. Either way, the source, we all go to the same well to drink. That particular well is my father, and millions of little choices. He influenced my brother, and my brother-in-law. Both my brothers-in-law are, one's special forces, one is I can't tell you what he does, but within the nuclear field of protecting nuclear stuff. And then my brother obviously is an EOD SWAT superstar in California. And then I'm a knuckle dragging idiot. So, he's profoundly influenced everybody that he's come to, and none of the stuff that I say is new. And I'm sure, he learned it over a long career, you learned it over a long career, and we are now trying to pass this wisdom that is coming from some of the most brilliant minds on to everybody we can, to include people in church in Central Texas, at a concert in Las Vegas, at a nightclub in Orlando. Not just law enforcement, not just military, not just first responders. Everybody needs this. This is moral. This is morality. This is ethics. This is integrity. This is right. This is wrong. Don't do drugs, kids. Drugs are bad.
Mm-hmm. This is the world that we live in.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Mr. Kennedy, sir, thank you very much for coming on.
It was fun. It's fun. It's always
fun. We'll
good to be in Austin.
Again.
Actually, one other thing, when Tim got to pick up a couple of his toys today, so we were at the gun store, and he said, so I asked him, I said, what was the first one you shot? And he goes, I think it was your MP5, Dad.
The first, now they call them SBRs, a short barrel rifle. Mm-hmm. The first one that I ever shot was a fully automatic MP5 SD. Mm-hmm. That
Navy trigger group
that my dad handed to me as a kid. This is as a middle schooler where you walk into a parking lot and try to find this car and write down its license plate. Mm-hmm. Let me show you how.
Not with him. No.
Not with the MP5. Those are separate things.
Don't mix stories, okay? People get the wrong idea.
But I'm going to end with a Mike Kennedy quote.
Hit it.
Before I went to Iraq the very first time, he told me, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this is something that everybody that ever comes to a Sheepdog class, when we talk about you having to live with your decisions, there are places and the app, just so I understood the context, he was telling me that before I went, and he knew I was going to go into a bunch of gunfights, where I was going to go and kill people, and which I did. And I don't wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares because I killed people that I know should have died. But we're going to switch this and apply it to this entire conversation, which was drugs. You can get a prescription legally to use drugs. You can go to Colorado and legally buy drugs. You can go and get an abundant amount of testosterone from your life coach, doctor guy. Mm-hmm. You can do all of those things. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That applies to so many things. Think about the big picture. And Mike Kennedy quote, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Absolutely. And until next time, be a sheepdog.
You have been listening to the Sheepdog Project. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sheepdog Response. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent any larger entity, public or private.